This is Chief McFadden with an episode of Station 1. Today we're going to talk about different things that are going to happen during the spring and summer. We're going to talk about the burn ban. Hopefully by the time you watch this, we've had lots of rain and it's a moot point, but we do have a burn ban. We've got police officers that are going to talk a little bit about bicycle safety. We're going to do some water safety, some weather safety, and then some heat safety issues as far as what to do if there's significant hot weather. So today we have Assistant Chief Grant Wadley. He's our EMS chief, and you've been doing this how long now?
About 30 years.
About 30 years. So, and second generation at least.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad was also an EMT.
Mm-hmm.
You've dealt with a lot of heat-related emergencies throughout the year, and it seems like we always have 2 or 3, especially early spring and into summer. And so, what are some things that you can tell us a little bit about heat-related injuries and what people can do to avoid them, what people can do to help if somebody has a heat-related problem? What are some issues that we have?
There are 3 main heat-related illnesses that we deal with. One, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Heat stroke being the most severe and the most critical at times, and most of them manifest up to that if not taken care of. So heat-related emergencies are again related to the heat. People being outside, outdoors, in the sunlight, also in high heat type locations such as job sites that have high heat areas. That's where it's involved in. And the body goes through different changes when the heat gets up, and the body usually needs more fluids such as water or sports drinks, and that's where people kind of go awry, not drinking as much.
So with these heat-related injuries, you talked about cramps. If you've played sports or something, is that the same kind of cramps? Your muscles kind of cramp
Same
up?
type of cramps that you're talking about. It is most commonly found in athletes. It's also found in people who drink excess alcohol. People are overweight. Children and the elderly are most susceptible to heat-related emergencies.
So you talked about heat exhaustion. What are some signs if you're out working with your wife or your husband or your kids, what are some signs that people might realize or might see with heat exhaustion when they're out working in their yard or playing sports or at the beach or however? What are some signs that you might see?
A lot of times dizziness, the feeling of being overheated, overworked, generalized weakness. Those are signs and symptoms that come on. Excessive sweating can also be a high sign of that also.
So, and then you move into your next one, which is heat stroke. And what are some signs? What kind of differentiates, hey, I've gone too far now and I've gone from heat exhaustion to a heat stroke? What are some?
So the difference with heat stroke is they have more confusion, they stop sweating, they have a loss of consciousness. They also have a core temperature of 104 degrees or higher. This becomes a true emergency because the heat really starts affecting the brain and it doesn't cool it off fast enough.
So, and one of the things that we kind of use when we talk about EMTs is you're cooking your brain.
Exactly.
And so let's go back to exhaustion, and then we'll come back to stroke here in a minute and talk more about the brain. But so with exhaustion, what are some things you can do once you see that your loved one their days are confused, or even if you're just out and your neighbor is dazed, confused, you can tell they've been working in their yard. What are some things that you can do to help them immediately?
First thing to do is stop whatever activity they're doing or you're doing and get into shade, get into a cool place. Whether it's indoors under an air conditioner or whether you're in front of a fan, whatever the case may be, get out of the heat. Start cooling down as best you can. Next thing is to start drinking fluids if you're able to do it. If you're able to swallow and do this appropriately, cool water and sports drinks about every 15 minutes would be the best. No alcoholic beverages at all.
Okay. So we'll go one step farther. We'll talk about the heat stroke. Somebody's passed out. They're visibly not doing well. What should they do at that point? They've passed that threshold. They've gone to stroke status. What are some things that they need to do?
First thing again, call 911. Get the paramedics headed there as quick as possible. In EMS, we're able to treat that very quickly pre-hospital and get the cooling processing started. Then we eventually get them to an appropriate facility.
So is it appropriate for me as a general citizen? Is it all right to start cooling this patient off?
Best thing, again, get them out of the heat, get them start cooled off immediately. If you know appropriately how to do it, putting ice packs or something cool around the neck, around the under the arms area, remove clothing that's already hot. Just get them out of that environment is the best thing to do.
So when we go back to cooking the brain, the longer that temperature stays higher, the more that it's cooking the brain, the more that it's making that brain go from over easy to overcooked. And
the brain in our body can only function between a certain temperature range, from below freezing to the extreme heat. Extreme heat in the human body, greater than 104 for an extended period of time, will certainly have long-lasting effects, if not death.
So, and I've read a study before. It talked about 2 high school football players, and again, you're going to see this with your football players. It happens every year. There's 1 or 2 that get really sick. They even die. There were 2 kids. Same. I think Alabama was it. One of them they began actively cooling immediately. One of them they just kind of stopped doing what they were doing. One kid walked out of the hospital, the kid that they dumped cold water on and got him cool. The other kid died. So pre-hospital, would you recommend, if you're out there, can you put water on them? What are some things that might happen if we start cooling them down?
Really
too fast?
Too fast, you can still have some type problems, especially in the very young children. Cooling people down too fast will create seizure-like activity possibly, and other related problems. It's hard to say person to person, but usually the very young have that problem. Cooling people down, just generally, getting them out of the heat, giving them something cool to drink, bringing it down gradually is the best practice you can do.
Awesome. Was there anything else you want to add about heat-related injuries, or?
Again, just protecting your body. We're talking about heat-related injuries, but this is also a time where a lot of people get out in the sun early on, fair-complected people, and forget that it may not be 100 degrees outside, but they're not putting on sunscreen. Some people have a little bit less hair than I do, maybe next to me here, but they need to be reminding themselves of wearing appropriate skin protection, such as the skin.
Absolutely, and I've seen just recently I saw a study that talked about myths about skin cancer. It said if you're dark complected, you won't get skin cancer, and they said that's a myth. It said, if it's cloudy outside, you're still getting sunburned. You're still able to get sunburned, and they talked about the different SPFs. And the one I read said anything over 30 is what you're aiming for. Anything over 50, according to this website, it's not going to hurt you to put 100 SPF on, but it's not doing any better than what an SPF 50 would do. And one of the things that people often forget is they put it on in the morning. That stuff it's not like a miracle drug. You don't wipe it on and you're good for all day. You've got to continually reapply that stuff, correct?
And I think people need to do their homework on, what brand, what kind is best for them. Of course, we don't promote any brands or certain kinds or anything like that. That's up to
I like
up to the people.
because it smells good.
It smells kind of Hawaiianish, yeah, coconutish, but it's up to them to see what they have, and you get with your own physician. If you have other skin problems or disorders, what's the best thing for you to do?
And one of the other myths that was in the rest of this website was that the myth was skin cancer doesn't kill, but it really is a deadly cancer. It really
does. I
can
think
kill
if you would look on some of the dermatology websites and some of the related health care websites, you actually see we're starting to see an increase with skin cancer, and you see dermatologists in the area. They're treating people every day in their clinics. The local doctors, whether it's in Liberal or Amarillo, I'm familiar with them, and they have skin cancer patients that come in every single day, and it's something that's being diagnosed every single day. So it is something that is among us.
And it's even affected us here at the fire station. We've had several guys that have gotten skin cancer. So anyways, thank you, Grant. I appreciate it. And we just want all of our citizens to stay safe. So thank you. All right, today we have Officer Herdegui with us. He's going to talk a little bit about bicycle safety. So during the summertime, do you see more activity with people on bicycles? Do you see children out more often?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially on nice days, no wind, everything like that.
Yeah, not like today.
Oh no, not like today.
So definitely, I've got 2 kids. They love being on their bicycles. They ride all over town. It gives them a sense of freedom. But one thing that we do want to make sure is our kids stay safe. And so that's kind of a two-way responsibility. It's the responsibility of the people driving, and it's also a responsibility of people with riding the bicycle. So what are some things that kids and adults can do if they're riding bicycles to stay safe and to make sure everybody sees them and things like that?
Well, the first thing would be wear a helmet, other type of protection equipment, elbow pads, knee pads. But the helmet would be the first one that they should be wearing.
So in Guyman, is there a law that says you have to wear a helmet, or is it just a recommendation?
Not necessarily. No laws against it, but it's really recommended. Especially,
really recommended.
by
and the only reason I ask is because at the National Fire Academy in Maryland, it's a law in their community where you have to wear a helmet, and if you don't, they give you like a $30 fine or something. So I was just checking to make sure. I didn't know either.
Yeah.
So, no laws with helmets. We just highly encourage it. It is a safety issue as far as keeping children safe. What are some other things? Are you supposed to ride against traffic, with traffic? How's that all going?
Well, as somebody on a bicycle, you always want to basically like you're a vehicle. You go with traffic, follow all your signs, stop signs, traffic lights, things like that. And of course, you'll want to signal, of course, when you come up to an intersection, letting other bicyclists and also other vehicles.
So you said they have to stop at all stop signs.
Yes.
I've seen lots of bicycles. They just fly down the streets. They don't stop. They catch as much air as the dips as they can, but
Yes.
they are supposed to stop at all the
Yes, they are, and we tried to stop and talk to the kids on bicycles and let them know. A lot of them aren't aware that they're supposed to follow the same laws as traffic, regular traffic. But
Well, definitely, that is it's something good to teach them, and we're going to start doing and I haven't talked with Chief Babb yet, but we're going to start handing out free ice cream cones if we see kids with their helmets on following laws. We'll get you some of those also, where if you see kids that are just doing something extremely safe and good, then you can hand out an ice cream cone to them, and maybe they can ride their bicycles over to McDonald's and get a free ice cream cone.
Yeah, that'd be
man.
very good.
So it is a program we're going to start. We can do a joint effort and make something like that happen. And so what are some other things that bicyclists really need to know and take heed of?
Well, of course, making sure your bicycle is up to in working condition.
Working condition.
Brakes, seats, tires.
No flat tires.
Yes,
Not putting people on your back, what they call that, pumping your friends around or whatever.
Well, a lot of bikes now have the pegs, so that's
Gotcha.
can't really stop that too much.
So make sure your bicycle's in working order, the chains are lubed, your tires aren't bent, all that good stuff. What about kind of clothing wise? What are some good clothing wise that you need to worry about?
Well, reflectors are always nice. They could be on your helmet, your bike. Make sure your bike has them, and if you can, maybe a vest would be good. Something that'll just make you stand out.
I've seen all different kinds of, gimmicky items, flashing lights on the front, back.
Yeah,
just
that
keeping
doesn't
people
hurt.
safe, man.
It doesn't hurt at all.
So, in addition to that, make sure they're wearing tight clothing. It's not loose-fitting clothing where you get wrapped up in your sprockets.
Yeah, I've been there before.
It's not fun, is it?
No, not at all.
It's not fun. So make sure you got tight-fitting clothes. With that, what are some things that drivers can do during the summer? I live on Sunset, crazy street. People fly up and down the streets. What are some things that other adults and teenagers and anybody that's driving, what are some things that they can do to help make sure that our citizens stay safe with when they're riding bicycles?
Well, they have to be paying attention. All this stuff with texting and driving and stuff like that, just little distraction can cause something very, very tragic. Just be aware of people. They're going to be out riding their bikes, and you pay attention to make sure.
And slow down.
everybody's-
You're not
Yeah,
getting
of course.
you're not getting to
slow
Walmart
down.
any faster by going
Yes.
40 mile an hour down Sunset. I promise. So slow down. And like you said, none of us in the emergency services, last thing we want to do is run on somebody who has accidentally killed somebody else because they weren't paying attention. They were texting, they were playing with the radio, messing with their kids. Pull over. It only takes a second. So big thing, not especially kids. None of us want to deal with.
No.
We don't want to work on kids. That's all of our nightmares. And so anything you can do to prevent that, we highly recommend it. So is there anything else that you want to talk to us about, or?
Just be safe. Kids are starting, school's almost out, so there's going to be a lot of them.
And not just bicycle safety. You brought up a good point. There's going to be kids in the street playing baseball and football and running around. They're going to. I don't know how many times I've seen a ball fly across the street, and then I'm terrified because there's going to be a kid follow it.
Yeah, usually they just run out, don't even look both ways. And
they do need to take some responsibility, but as drivers, ultimately, we just need to be conscious and alert of all the things that are going around in our surroundings.
Absolutely.
So just stay safe, everyone, and let's have a great summer and enjoy it. So thank you.
No problem.
So today's spotlight we're going to do, in the past we've just done 1 or 2 people for spotlight. This time we're going to spotlight C-shift. So the way firefighters work is they work one day and they're off 2 days in a row. These guys work as family, they live as family. They're actually probably with each other more than they are their families most of the time. So with that, we'll start down at the end and we'll let you introduce who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself, what your hobbies are, where you came from, that type of things.
My name is Cody Scott. I've been here somewhere around 4 years, starting at the fire department, and got my paramedic this last year. The only real hobbies I got are just basically anything outside, softball, hunting, fishing, stuff like that.
And you're a Guyman local, right?
Yes, born and raised here in Guyman.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victor Saucedo. I started as an intern here in 2013 and just kind of been here ever since. My hobbies pretty much include photography, video games, playing around. That's about it.
And you're from Boise City, correct?
Boise City, Oklahoma.
Awesome. Another local boy.
My name is Jesus Uribe. I've been here about 6 years. I started as an intern also in 2011, so I'll be going on 7 years this year. My hobbies is just getting out, doing stuff, anything.
Jesus is being a little modest. He loves soccer. He's pretty good at soccer. You compete on some teams out of Liberal, correct?
Yeah, we compete in a soccer league in Liberal.
And you've won a couple of tournaments in Edmond, or got second?
We've won the Liberal League twice in a row, and then we compete in Edmond. We've gone to Tulsa to compete. Just try to represent this area.
So, and you're from Guyman, correct?
Yes. I've been here 17 years now, so I'm from Guyman now.
Local kid, so.
Thanks, Chief. Kyler Hand, I've been here a total of 3 years. Came to Guyman about 20 years ago. My hobbies include golfing, spending time with my family. Yeah, that's about all I got.
So, what encouraged you to get into firefighting?
You did, actually. I've known you since I was in about 4th grade. So thank you for that.
Kind of raised the little guy, so.
You did.
He's another local. So, next.
Lane Dewar, C-shift captain, firefighter, paramedic. I've been working for the Guyman Fire Department since 2010. Grew up in Hooker. I'm also local. Got a family, 2 kids. Hobbies are hanging out with family, helping my dad on the farm, and hunting coyotes.
All right. So, Lane, you said you were the captain, and one of the things that he's being modest about is he's a pretty good shot, right?
Decent. Practice every once in a while.
I've heard shots at coyotes like 400 yards or better.
Or better.
So, pretty cool. So, guys, tell me a little bit, what's your favorite part about being on C-shift?
This is a good group of guys. I'm happy to be their captain. We've got one other guy, OJ. He's at Station 2 today. He's my lieutenant. He's a good guy to hang out with. All these guys are good guys to hang out with and be around. We have a lot of good times. They're all professional most of the time, and good paramedics and good firefighters. It's a good group of guys.
So, C-shift really is a good group of guys. They mesh well together. They get along really well. who wants to tell a little bit more about C Shift? Y'all hang out off duty?
Some of us like to hang out off duty also. We go out to Win Wednesday every now and again. We have, family cookouts and stuff. Even though some of us don't have like kids and stuff, but we still go to the cookouts and get around and hang out together and stuff. We just, like we said, we just hang out, and it's like a family here pretty much.
So Jesus, tell us a little bit about a typical day in the typical life in the day of a firefighter. What goes on? What's the first thing you do every morning?
First thing we do is when we come in, we get in here, and then we do have a little shift meeting over in the fishbowl. Do a pager test, make sure that everybody's pagers are working in the morning, and then we go out and check trucks.
Operational is huge in the fire department. We have all this nice equipment that the citizens of Guymon have purchased us. We just have to make sure we keep them in good working order, make sure they're charged up, running, and all the equipment works. That's a pretty big priority in our job. After that, what do we do after that? You can pass the mic on if you want to. So Tuesday through Thursday, what do we do after truck checks?
After truck checks, we have our training, which is broken down into different things every week between EMS, hazmat, fire, and just kind of whatever we feel like we need to work on as a department and as a shift. And then after training, we have lunch, my favorite part of the day.
So, and this is a general question for any of you. What's your favorite thing to train on?
I think mine would probably be rescue, like we did today. We did rescue training today, practiced rappelling and our knot tying.
And for some of those that don't know, we do have a technical rescue trailer and technical rescue team. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show. And this team does anything from high angle rescue, trench rescue, confined space rescue, swift water rescue, a little bit of everything. So a very vast department. Being called the Guymon Fire Department is kind of a nomenclature, as actually we're an all hazards department now. When somebody calls, they expect us to fix the problem, and so that's kind of what we do. So, anything C Shift wants to leave me with? What's y'all's favorite joke? What's some good times y'all have had? Some good memories?
Not allowed to say that.
Not allowed to say it on TV.
You're not allowed to say it on TV. Well, that probably means you're not allowed to say it in front of me.
All right.
So, all right, guys, I appreciate it, and thank you for coming out.
All right, thank you.
Today, when we're going to talk about, one of the specialties we're going to talk about is our swift water team and our water rescue team. We've done a show in the past about some water rescues that we did in Houston at Hurricane Harvey. We've actually, if you'd asked me 3 years ago why we had a swift water team, I would have told you we didn't need one. We actually had an incident where a gentleman fell through the ice. We were asked what we would do if it were to happen again, and I didn't have an answer for that. So about 3 of us went and got trained in ice water rescue. Homeland Security was actually generous enough to buy us the equipment to actually make entry into ice rescue to go in and get somebody out. Ice rescue is extremely dangerous. It's an event that we like to call low frequency, high risk. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, the consequences are very high to get not only citizens killed, but also firefighters killed. So what that turned into was Homeland Security buying us a little bit of equipment, different water rescue suits. They actually bought us a raft. And what that turned into was going and getting people certified in swift water training. So a year after the ice rescue, we had a flash flood that came through at the Four Corners area. Significant, I think 10 inches of rain fell. The water went over the highway. We had about 4 vehicles submerged in water. One of the vehicles was all the way to the roof, and we couldn't find anybody. We couldn't find the owner. We knew somebody had to have driven it out there. Again, I was asked, what would you have done if somebody would have been on top of this raging water that was a half-mile wide, and I didn't have an answer for it. So we'd sent, now we have sent 10 guys down to Swiftwater training. Again, Department of Homeland Security and Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security with Curtis Driscoll and Johnny Vaughn. They've helped us out tremendously and paid for these guys to go get trained. So it's free training to the citizens of Guymon. So what that turned into was we're a fully functional Swiftwater team. We had the right gear, we had the right training, and so when Hurricane Harvey came, they were begging Oklahoma and other states surrounding Texas for Swiftwater teams. When we got the call, we of course asked the people, our higher-ups, what they thought. They said it sounded like a wonderful idea. Let's go help our neighbors in need. So we headed up, loaded up that trailer, and 6 of us went down to Houston. We spent a week in Houston. Interesting times. We slept in the Target parking lot. We did, and we went and we actually did a lot of good. Oklahoma Task Force 1, which is who we worked through, we actually saved roughly 700 people. Roughly 150 animals in the first 3 days that Oklahoma Task Force 1 was there. What we realized was that we didn't have any kind of boats. Although this raft was good, it's perfect, it's wonderful, it doesn't have a motor and it has no capabilities of having a motor. The Fire Club spends lots of time raising money throughout the year. We raise money by parking cars at the rodeo. We have a golf tournament, we have a firefighter's ball. We do all these different things to raise money. We had raised a significant amount of money, and so the rescue team asked the club to purchase 2 boats and motors. So that came to roughly $12,000. So on top we have a raft, a fully functioning raft that can actually put a motor on. It's good for Swiftwater, great for getting people off of cars, doing things like that. On the bottom we have an aluminum boat. It's good for floodwater and Swiftwater. And then we still have the raft, which was good if we had another hurricane deployment. So with the 3 boats, we're fully functional. We're fully ready to help anybody in the 5-state area with any kind of issue that we may have, whether it's flood, Swiftwater, ice rescue, body recovery, anything that's needed in the 5-state area, we're more than willing to help. So the issue we had at that point was, we've got the nice boats, now we need a trailer. So we contacted Oklahoma Emergency Management and asked them if there were any grants available, and they said yeah, they hadn't spent all their grant money for the year, so they bought us the trailer. The trailer's a Rescue 1 trailer. The cool thing about it is, once you take this bottom boat off, the top boat actually hinges down and you can unload them both into the water. Pretty fancy setup, it works excellent. They're predicting above average hurricane weather, so hopefully our neighbors in Texas don't need us, but if they do, we're always willing to travel. The joke we have around here is, had boat will travel. So again, something that the Panhandle should be proud of is that the whole state of Oklahoma realizes that we have not only great equipment, but we also have great trained personnel that can take care of any kind of hazard that may come our way. So if ever you're out here, you want to come look at it, you want to come see what we've got, you're more than welcome to come to the Guymon Fire Department and see what we have. Thank you.
All right, so what we're doing here is we're getting ready for ice rescue. Anything that we do with ice rescue is going to be really cold, so our #1 priority is making sure our guys are safe. So this is one of the dry suits that we put on. We put this on anytime we enter any kind of cold water or swift water. It's a complete dry suit, so it keeps you completely dry. It does take a little bit of time to get it on, but any kind of water. So anytime you see that, our guys will have on dry suits and they'll have on their life vests. So that's what he's doing right there, is getting ready.
is, that was just a little bitty fire that he started in there. And it'll take it just a little bit to get going, but once it gets rolling, it's pretty incredible how much heat this builds up. So this is, you've left something on the stove cooking, you've left something burning on the couch, you know, you flicked your cigarette on the couch. It happens, believe it or not. So it's gonna take it a little bit to get up and going. So if you have any questions while it's sitting here, again, you've got roughly 2 minutes before it flashes over in one room. So it's gonna be fast.
What are some of the chemicals that are released in fires now? What are the chemicals?
H2S, so hydrogen sulfide, CO. What are some of the other ones?
Formaldehyde, hydrogen cyanide.
That's what it was, hydrogen
like
cyanide.
fun.
Yeah.
CO is going to be your main thing that's going to get you, your carbon monoxides.
Takes your airway.
Yep.
So and this has nothing synthetic that's in there. It's just the wood. Now, granted, the wood has glue on it, but
Does everyone have smoke alarms in their houses? Yeah. What about CO, carbon monoxide?
So another segment we're going to talk about is fireworks safety. This goes hand in hand with the burn ban. We are in a governor issued burn ban at this point. Again, I hope by the time you see this, we've had 10 inches of rain and everything's green as green can be. But at this time, we really need to think about us still being in a burn ban for 4th of July. So with fireworks safety, the biggest things I can teach you are to have an adult supervision. Don't drink while doing any kind of fireworks. If it says to put it on the ground, put it on the ground. Don't hold it in your hand, and just be conscious of what's going on. Each year there are thousands of people that are injured with fireworks. There are people that are killed with fireworks every year, and I just don't want any of that to happen. So, just 4th of July should be a good time of celebration. It is our Independence Day, but we don't want to see anybody get hurt. So. Don't do anything inappropriate with fireworks. I've heard of people putting them on top of their head and shooting them. I've heard of people putting them in their armpits and shooting them. Fireworks are meant to be, you know, it's an explosion, so you need to be extremely careful with fireworks. And the biggest issue is just think before you do it and stay away from alcohol and fireworks. And the city of Guymon will have a fireworks show out at the rodeo grounds as usual. It'll be a top-notch show, one of the best in the area. I highly encourage you all to come out and watch the show. Even if you're not allowed to shoot fireworks, come out and enjoy our show. And I hope everyone has a good day.
The smoke is going to tell us the future of the fire, what's going to end up happening to the fire. So that's why we try to read it. If you've got incipient stage in one room, or full growth in one room, then you might be starting a different growth in another room. So the fire just kind of works its way through the house. And so it's always good to have doors closed. So every time we leave for vacations and stuff, we close every door to our house so it slows the progression of the fire. But once again, the things that we look for in smoke is volume of the smoke, the velocity of the smoke, the density of the smoke, and the color. So those tell us everything what the future of the fire is going to do. So of course, the worst smoke is the black smoke. The nasty black smoke is going to be the stuff that's it's going to get us close to the seat of the fire. So as you're cruising along, if you guys ever see a house fire, look for that black smoke, because that's going to tell you where the seat of the fire is, you know, whether it be in the kitchen or different things of that nature. The white smoke is more of what we call filtered smoke. So the smoke particles have dropped out of the smoke and it's created white. So in ways of doing that, it might be we've added water to it. So adding water to the fire creates the white smoke, the steam conversions, drops the particles out. Or it might have filtered from one room to the next through the walls, and so all the smoke particles get caught in the walls or the drywall, something of that nature. But so volume, velocity, density, and color is how we kind of break it all down. So there's quite a bit of science to it. It's just something that we study a lot. And so back in the older days of firefighting, they didn't have the synthetics, the microfibers, all those different kinds of couch cushions and nasty stuff. And so they were able to get in fires and stay longer. Nowadays, these things flash really quick. Just one couch cushion that's got the the polyurethane cushions on them inside, those things flash immediately. They start dripping all this nasty stuff off on the ground, and then the whole room will just flash over. Gets, you know, way up there in high degree temperatures. But there's a lot of science to it. Once again, on this little prop, like I say, it takes just a little while to get it going. Once it takes off, that particle board starts off-gassing, then it gets going good. Does anybody have any questions? Like I said, there's a lot more to it than just putting water on the red stuff, you know. So we really study, we try to learn about it, and it's fun to do these kinds of things too.
There's different types of fire extinguishers, right? For
Yeah,
different types of fires.
yep. So you got class A, B's, and C's, D's, and class K's. Anybody know what an class A fire would be? It's gonna be your ordinary stuff, ordinary combustibles. What about B?
Grease.
Liquids.
You guys start answering.
Yep.
I know K, isn't that the grease fire?
Yeah, grease fire. Sure.
C is electrical, isn't it?
C is electrical. What about D?
Multi.
What's that?
Isn't it like covers A, B, and C?
It's going to be like your flammable metals,
Oh.
like your magnesiums and your lithium, not lithium, but magnesium. Trying to think what are some other different kinds would be. Yeah, have you guys seen on Facebook the Tesla cars that catch on fire?
No.
They've got the lithium batteries in them.
Oh, really?
So it's a whole different beast for us, you know, different animal. So lithium is highly reactive to water. So us carrying water, we're going to run up there and try to lob water on it, and then it's going to have a violent reaction. So there's a lot of hazmat that's involved with the stuff that we do as well. So we just
go about
yeah, and electrical stuff, it's a different animal in itself too. You know, we even break it down to what kind of patterns will we use with our water streams. So of course, if you had like a straight stream, a real tight pattern like that, hit an electrical source, it can come through that water stream and shock you. So we go to like what we would call a narrow angle fog. Like if we had a big locomotive or something like that where we had to put water on it, then we change it up, narrow angle, or you know, like a power cone is what we would call it, and break that water up to where it wouldn't conduct electricity like a, yep. So this right here is what we would call the incipient state of fire. So this is just the beginning of it. It's starting to grow, it's starting to build. And so once this prop gets fully going, we'll have all the different stages of fire going on inside. Each different room will be a different stage of the fire. It goes incipient, growth, fully developed, and then decay. And up in your fully developed, and from growth to fully development is when we worry about flashovers. Flashover is everything gets so hot in the room that it just spontaneously ignites and combusts. The fire floor of the fire room is going to be the far right. So as you move to the left, we've got an opening there, and then it goes up. But the room directly above is completely concealed off. And then it goes up into the attic space, and then we have some vent places in the back where we can open it up as well.
Fire in it.
Oh, absolutely. So of course, your typical wood frame or stick frame buildings is going to be the stuff that's going to go pretty quick. So that's going to be your unprotected woods. And once again, this goes back into how we read the smoke. So if we see like what I would call a rusty color smoke, everybody knows what rust looks like on a pipe. Rusty colored smoke would be your untreated wood. So untreated wood is like your rafters, all the different structural components of your house. So if we were to see the rusty color smoke, then we would automatically think, okay, we're going to have structural collapse. We might have a ceiling come down on top of us. So we really look for that color of smoke as well. But yeah, I mean, a typical house, a trailer house, any kind of modular home like that, those can go up really quick. Well, yeah, so of course on this scenario, your heat's going to be rising. So the stuff directly above it's going to be hot. And so we might be in the decay stage of the fire in that bottom fire floor. So our little trash pile that we had in there may be kind of burning itself out. And so the stuff around it, and we still have a little bit of flame, but the stuff around it may start be getting hotter, or this stuff's kind of dying off. So you're going to have your mixed colors of smoke. So just a little bit of what we do when we roll up to a fire scene. And here's a thermal imager, and you guys can pass that around and just look at each other with it and see how it kind of detects heat. It'll give you a reading at what this little trigger point right there is showing.
I got you.
So,
It shows you're at 56 degrees. Is what it shows.
You can
Yep,
point it at
pretty
the
cold.
point it at the tower, the dollhouse. All right, shut it back down.
So just a little bit about what we do when we roll up to a fire incident. So depending on who it is, whether it be a ladder truck, engine, or one of the command vehicles, we roll up and we automatically take command. So we give what we call an initial report. So we roll up, we say what we have, what we need, and how we're going to fight it. And then the guy will jump out or have somebody else do what we call a 360. So they'll walk completely around the structure if possible. We'll get all our conditions and then we'll relay that to everybody else. When the trucks get there, one will go directly to the scene, the other will grab a hydrant and lay into that guy, and then we start pulling hand lines off. And so for like a residential fire, we pull what we call an 1 3/4 smooth bore. So we have 250 foot of 1 3/4 line with a smooth bore nozzle on it. If we roll up to a commercial fire, we pull a 2.5. So we pull 250 foot of 2.5 inch hose. Car fires and dumpster fires, we use what we call a fog nozzle. And it's basically just to break the patterns up and kind of be able to protect ourselves a little bit better. We go through, we put the fire out, we take care of the issues, and then we start the mop up is what we call it. We start trying to conserve the property. So we take tarps in, we pull the ceilings out, lay all that bad stuff on the tarps, transport it out to the dumpster, try to clean it up just a little bit for the homeowner. So now you can start seeing the different colors in your smoke. Yeah, we wear what we call SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatus. It's similar to like what a scuba diving set would be. But yeah, we're able to breathe the air that's in our tanks. So those are rated for 30 minutes of air. And we do air consumption tests every 6 months. So we actually put the air pack on and do lots of work just to see how long we can actually last on a cylinder. But if you're working hard in a fire and you got a 30-minute tank on, it may last you 5 to 10 minutes. So, I mean, it really wears you down.
In that situation, how much with uniform and gear and all of that are you guys toting around?
What are we thinking? Is about 75 pounds? See how the smoke lit?
Yeah, do it again. Or close it up.
I think, isn't it about 75 pounds?
Yeah, that's
Roughly 75.
So what people don't,
Hit the bottom with a little bit of water.
what people don't think about, all that smoke is just unburned materials.
There's that nasty color smoke I was talking about. So let's read our smoke a little bit. So what do you guys think about the volume of the smoke? How much volume do we have coming out that third
It looks like
third
a
window?
lot.
Quite a bit of volume. So it's definitely something that we want to take in consideration. What about the velocity when he opens that window? Do you have a good push of smoke? There's a decent push. So it could be, that push could be from the volume of smoke inside, and there's so much that it's got to push something out. And it could also be a heat push. There could be a lot of heat in the bottom and it's pushing a lot of smoke out.
Could it also mean that there's an open air source way down low?
Flow path.
Yeah.
You got a good flow path in the bottom. What about our density? How dense is that smoke? Pretty thick. So if you were in there, there's probably no chance you'd be able to see, right? And what about our color?
It's that good dark yellow. Well,
It's
except
starting,
the backside, it's
it's
getting white.
starting to get a yellow, rusty kind of look
Yeah.
to it. The stuff that we worry about with structural collapse. So you guys just read the smoke of a fire right there. You learned it that quick.
Carson, I don't want to sound stereotypical, but
So that was actually the room that was completely concealed off. There was no windows or nothing to it.
All right, set it again.
Give her a little water. It doesn't take much water to change things around a little bit. Good push out of that attic. There it goes.
How you guys would be fighting a fire like this? Are you looking just to contain it, or if it's possible, are you looking
Something like that.
salvage? Like,
Yeah.
you'll get to a point where you say, we're just going to contain it, but it's got.
Absolutely. Yeah, you would get to a point like that. So how it goes, how we run things is life safety is number one, incident stabilization number two, and then property conservation number three. So of course life safety, but at some point in time, lives may not be viable when you get to a point where there's so much fire there. So then we definitely start trying to knock it, surround and drown this thing and really start putting the fire out itself. But we do our best to get in and search as quickly and as thoroughly as we can. But we have different modes of how we do it. We could go an offensive interior, offensive exterior, we go defensive, where it's so far gone that we're not going to be able to make it in.
Turn your head from a show I saw one time before from a day room hotel bed. A tale told of a child that saw a ghost and for the most part wasn't heard before a shriek who would have thought he too was dead. I only share the premise, not a spoiler that I say. No more than an overview, no more I give away. So feast your eyes upon this story, most of which are also never leak, or so to speak, behind these tight lips it would stay. Hold your tongue now, don't say a word. Yes, I know the rest. I will have heard from you on what I know. Don't see for myself, so bite your tongue, let no word escape. Some things are just better off unsaid, unheard. Ruiner is as ruiner does. No word of a lie, I don't supply too much to hear. No more than you're interested, I then wish to steer. Never would I set out to reveal no more than we could see inside the first beginnings of the cinematic reel. A shock indeed I would perceive if it were otherwise. Like this time I saw a scene set in a starry sky. A rebel boy found his nemesis who then he fought upon a bridge. Was actually, it turns out, his dad in disguise. Hold your tongue now, don't say a word. Yes, I know the less I will have heard from you on what I know. Don't see for myself, so bite your tongue, let no word escape. Some things are just better off unsaid, unheard.
So one of the things you can do to help gain access to the patient is take the roof off, make it convertible. It's pretty easy. It's only 6 cuts and we can have that roof off there in a hurry. That way you can get access to the patient. You can stabilize C-spines, you can intubate, you can do IVs. So no, this is all hydraulic too. This is hydraulic. Those are the battery powered. So we have both.
Is that kind of a new thing?
The battery powered?
Yeah.
It really is.
Because batteries have gotten to the point that they can put out that kind of power.
Well, the power, it's actually a hydraulic pump
Run by
a battery. So it's the same tool as over here, except it's got a little hydraulic pump on the back. The last thing we'll talk about today is weather safety. I just want you all to be weather aware. We need to know what different storms mean, different warnings and watches. So if there's a severe weather watch, that means the conditions are correct, that something could happen. There's not anything imminent at the time. It just means the conditions are favorable for something to happen. The next one is a warning, whether it's tornado warning or severe weather warning. That means something's happening. The bad thing about the Oklahoma Panhandle in Texas County is so big that the warning could be in Texoma, but the warning is for most of the county. So just make sure you're weather aware, make sure you have things ready, make sure you know where you're going to go beforehand. We do live in Tornado Alley. Extremely important for you to know where tornado shelters are, where your nearest shelter is. You need to have a plan for your family. What are you going to do if something happens? How are we going to find each other? And I can't stress to you enough how important this is to have all of that stuff ready beforehand. Even my family, my 6-year-old son has a go bag in case of severe weather. And this bag needs to have medicines with you. It needs to have water, different eyeglasses, contacts, something for the kids to do if they are waiting in the shelter, whether it be coloring books or Play-Doh or something to kind of have some sort of normalcy when they're having this severe weather come through to make them stay a little bit calm. Next thing to do is you stay inside until you get an all clear. These things are extremely bad. In your go bag, make sure you have some sort of masks. When we went to Woodward, one of the biggest things we noticed after being there, this was 6-8 hours after the tornado had actually happened. One of the things we noticed was that the air had a lot of debris in it, whether it was fiberglass insulation, dirt, but it really irritated your throat. So make sure you have some sort of mask in there as well. Again, we do live in Tornado Alley, so it is a real possibility that tornadoes happen in the area. Know that we're going to be there to protect you in any way that we can. But also realize there's only so much we can do in a community with 15,000 people. So taking care of yourself and taking care of your neighbors is one of the biggest priorities. As far as something happening, if something does happen, the biggest thing that I would ask as the fire chief is for everyone to stay out of the affected area. A lot of people are going to lose a lot of different things. There's going to be personal items scattered everywhere. And I know a lot of people just want to help, but our biggest priority is making sure that everyone's accounted for, and then we can start the cleanup process. So again, be careful, be prepared, be weather aware. Today, we've got a pretty good chance of weather. I guess by the time you watch this, we'll know if something has happened or not. So just stay aware, and these storms can happen at any time throughout the season, so just be ready. So in this episode of Station 1, you've seen all different things. You've seen Sea Shift, you've been introduced to them. You've seen some of the shenanigans that firefighters play. Again, if the temperature is over 100, there's usually somebody getting wet at least once during the week. You've learned about bicycle safety, weather safety, fireworks safety, and you've learned about heat safety. Again, if you have any questions concerning any of these, or if you need a smoke alarm put in your house, feel free to call us, 580-338-5536, and tell us your concerns or your comments. If there's something that you want to see on the show, call and talk to Susie and tell her, and we'll get it scheduled. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.